History remembers him as a saint of Stoicism, a man of virtue. But Lucius Annaeus Seneca lived a life of staggering contradictions. He preached the beauty of poverty while becoming one of the wealthiest men in the empire. He taught the art of self-control, yet he was the mentor to a monster. His student was Nero, the emperor who would eventually watch Rome burn. This is the story of a man who tried to stay clean in a world of blood and gold. Welcome to the 95 Perspective. Today we deep dive into the life of Seneca. Born in Cordoba, Spain, Seneca was a brilliant, sickly child sent to the heart of Rome. His body was weak, battling chronic asthma, but his mind was a fortress. He was trained in rhetoric, the art of persuasion, destined for the high courts of the Senate. But it was Stoicism that saved him. The belief that we suffer more in imagination than reality.
Caesar, an enemy of the Republic. He speaks treason. Silence him. I speak for the gods themselves, yet you dare question my decree. Silence. You will obey me.
His rise was meteoric. His speeches were so brilliant they fueled the jealousy of emperors. Caligula almost had him killed. Only Seneca's poor health saved him. They thought he'd die soon anyway. But then came the exile, 8 years on the brutal, isolated island of Corsica. Stripped of everything, Seneca faced the ultimate test. Could he actually live his philosophy? Reminding himself that a wise man cannot be defeated by simple distance. But a new political force was rising in Rome, and she needed him. Agrippina the Younger, she had one ambition: to make her son, Nero, emperor. In AD 49, she secured Seneca's recall. He was no longer an exile. He was the tutor and advisor to the future master of the world. Seneca saw it as his philosophical duty. He would mould Nero into a benevolent, virtuous philosopher prince. For a brief 5 years it worked. The Quinquennium Neronis was an era of stability. Seneca and the prefect Burrus managed the state, while Nero indulged in art. But philosophy cannot change nature. Power, absolute and unchecked, began to warp the young emperor. The palace was a nest of paranoia. Agrippina was losing her grip on her son, and Seneca watched as the gentle boy he taught was consumed by the monster he feared. Then came the first break. In AD 59, Nero did the unthinkable.
They're attacking! Get out!
He murdered his own mother, Agrippina.
Help us!
Seneca was forced to write the official speech to the Senate, justifying the matricide. His principles were breaking. But this brings us to the ultimate paradox. The Stoic master was now unimaginably rich. For his service, Nero showered Seneca with money, palaces, and vast estates across the empire. He owned half of Britain's economy at one point, controlling capital that rivaled the Roman state itself. How could he reconcile this? His critics asked. How can you preach virtue while counting millions? This is your perspective. Seneca argued in On the Happy Life that a wise man does not love wealth, but he prefers it if he can obtain it without fraud. He claimed he was merely stewarding it, not attached. But the golden chains were heavy. He was the moral shield for a murderer. Could he really be a Stoic when his survival depended on the whims of a psychopath? The question wasn't just philosophical, it was existential. How much of himself must he lose to keep his life? By AD 62, the good quinquennium was over. Nero's madness was now absolute. Seneca saw the end. He tried to retire. He offered to return all his wealth to Nero in exchange for his freedom. Nero refused. He needed Seneca's legitimacy. He told him, "I would rather die than injure you." Nero was lying. His philosopher king was now his hostage. In AD 65, the trap was set. A massive plot called the Pisonian Conspiracy emerged to kill Nero. We don't know if Seneca was involved. History is unclear. But in Nero's mind, guilt didn't matter, only threat mattered. And Seneca was the ultimate threat. The end came at dinner. A tribune and his soldiers surrounded the villa. His friends began to wail in grief, but Seneca silenced them with a single look. He asked them, "Where are your maxims of philosophy? Where is the Stoicism you practiced?" He tried to comfort his wife, telling her that his life had been lived with virtue. In the Roman tradition of the noble death, he prepared to open his veins. But Seneca's body was old and frail. The blood flowed too slowly for death. He asked for hemlock. He wanted a philosopher's exit. But even the poison failed. His cold limbs refused to circulate the toxin. Finally, he was taken into a hot steam bath. As he felt his life fading, he sprinkled the water, calling it a libation to Jupiter. At last, the man of words and wealth found the silence he had written about for decades. His wife survived, carrying his memory, but the light of Roman philosophy had flickered out. Was he a hypocrite, or was he the only one brave enough to try and guide a monster? 2,000 years later, Seneca's voice is louder than ever. In a world of chaos, his letters offer a sanctuary of mental strength. He taught us that we don't have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. His palaces are dust, his gold is gone, but his perspective remains. Because the struggle to be a good person in a corrupt world never ends. Seneca's greatest obsession was time. He believed we are not given a short life, but that we make it short by wasting it on things that do not matter. He warned us about the future. We spend our lives waiting for something to happen, while the only thing we actually possess, the present, slips through our fingers. On the subject of fear, Seneca famously taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The mind creates monsters that the world never actually sends to our door. He viewed difficulty as a gift. "Fire is the test of gold," he wrote. "And adversity is the test of strong men. Without struggle, the soul remains soft." He practiced inner citadel living, being in the crowd but not of the crowd. Your peace should not depend on your surroundings, but on your choices. He spoke of friendship. A friend is not someone to use, but someone to die for. True friendship, to Seneca, was a soul-to-soul connection that transcends distance. He urged us to take the cosmic perspective, to see how small our problems really are. When you see the vastness of the universe, the insults of others lose their power. On aging. Seneca welcomed old age as a time when the passions finally quiet down. The body decays, but the wisdom of a life well lived only grows brighter. On freedom, Seneca said, "No man is a slave who has mastered his own mind." True liberty is the ability to say no to your own impulses and desires. He believed in deep reading. Don't read many books. Read the right books, over and over. Because to live is to be a soldier in the army of humanity. On anger, he called it a temporary madness, a fire that burns the vessel it's in. To be angry at an injury is to let the injury happen to you twice. He practiced Praemeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. If you have already lost everything in your mind, the world can never truly hurt you. We must prune our desires. We are unhappy not because we have little, but because we want more. Wealth is not found in a large bank account, but in a small number of wants. Seneca lived in the highest luxury, yet he slept on a hard mattress once a month. He wanted to remind himself, is this the condition I so greatly feared? Every night he performed a self-review. He asked his soul, what bad habit did you fix today? To go to sleep with a clean conscience is the ultimate luxury of a Stoic. The path of the crowd is easy. The path of virtue is steep and rocky. But only the steep path leads to a view worth seeing. We are all works in progress. Life is the sculptor, and we are the stone. Seneca's goal was to make the stone stand strong against the wind of fate. He spoke of death often, not as an end, but as a release from a cramped dwelling. He spoke of death often, not as an end, but as a release from a cramped dwelling. To a Stoic, dying well is the final act of living well. His influence spread through the centuries, from the early Christians to the Renaissance. They all found a brother in Seneca, a man who understood the pain of being human. In the 21st century, his perspective is a lifeline for the overwhelmed. It's a reminder that we don't need the world's approval to be whole. It's a reminder that virtue is found in small, quiet actions.
Oh, you are such a help. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Seneca was a man of shadows and light, a millionaire and a minimalist. He was far from perfect, but he was honest about the struggle. And perhaps that is why we still listen to him today. For the 95 Perspective, this has been the life and lessons of Lucius Annaeus Seneca. How will you spend your time today? Thanks for watching.